Has a goal and scores majestically.
Oh my word! Fabulous!
Oh, what a strike that is. Simply spectacular.
Oh, it's an absolute beauty, isn't it?
The best goal of the night.
It all starts here.
Hello and welcome to National League 72 as we look back on what was an incredible night of action in midweek at the bottom of the table and look ahead to another fantastic set of fixtures in the National League this weekend. Alongside me, as always, my partner in football, Erin McLean. Multi-match live was absolutely brilliant. Before we look at the headlines, though, from those games, Luke Garrard, I mean, what an insight into a football manager's brain.
Yeah, do you know what? First of all, Luke is someone who I hugely respect. The way he dissects, situations, games, players, formations is, his footballing mind is genius. He speaks so well and so eloquently, but he dissects it in a way that you can understand. I've worked with a lot of managers who don't dissect things the way that he does, don't explain things in the way that he does. And yeah, I thought he was absolutely magnificent.
Someone you'd like to have played for?
Absolutely. I think that the way he sees football is very similar to me, and what I like about him as well is that even though he has a certain style and a certain way that he likes to see the game played, he's flexible. He understands that depending on which league you're in, which players you've got, that you have to be adaptable. And, I think that Luke is definitely someone that I look at should be managing a lot higher, with no disrespect to Bournemouth, but I think he's a manager that should be managing in the Football League.
Well, let's get straight into the action that took place on Multi-Match Live. The big winners of the evening were Wealdstone, who beat Boston 1-0, and that man, Alex Reid, getting the goal again.
Yeah, listen, I think Alex Reid at Wealdstone, that is where he's comfortable. And like I say, he had a period where he went out to Oldham. It didn't quite work out for him, but came back to Wealdstone and just hit the ground running, picked up where he left off. And now that's 14 goals for the season. That goes a huge way towards helping them stay in the division, and that's what they've needed.
It was a real calm finish as well. I said on air that it was McLean-esque, but you weren't having it.
Well, no, listen, he's tucked it away with his left foot and bent it into the corner. I don't think I quite had that. I would have smashed the life out of it. But he's a striker that's full of confidence. The run in behind, first of all, off the flick, he anticipates that, and then it's the composure once you get in front of goal to just take that little touch, wait for the goalkeeper to make his movement, and then the composure to just tuck it into the corner. A striker at the top of his game.
A quick word on Boston, who came out of the relegation zone for the first time in 6 months, but ended the night back in it. It's been some run they've been on, isn't it?
Yeah, listen, it's been fabulous. Graham Coughlin has gone in there and totally transformed their fortunes. I think when he walked in, if you'd have said to Graham that they'd be in this position right now, he would have snapped your hand off. I don't think anyone would have believed it. So I don't think that they'll be too disappointed with, the defeat last night. As much as it is a blow, and the run that they're on, I think they'd won 5 out of the last 6 games, and they've won 11 since he's come in the door. So yes, there'll be disappointment, but they totally understand the trajectory that they're on, and there are going to be bumps in the road. That was a bump. What they have got is, come the 18th of April, they face Wealdstone again, and they can almost right the wrongs of last night.
There was a big bump in the road for AFC Fylde, who, on the road, lost away at Aldershot. It was a difficult night for them, but it felt like watching it, missed opportunities, not taking your chances, and then getting punished up the other end.
Yeah, and I think that's been the story of their season. Even when Kevin Phillips was in charge, there'd be certain games where you look and you felt that they could have probably got something. We saw Kev come out multiple times and say, we couldn't have done any more. We just weren't taking our chances. And last night was no different. They get into really good situations, get into good positions, and don't have that clinical edge. And you just need to look at their goal scorers. If Nick Horton isn't putting the ball in the back of the net, they don't score many goals, So there's a huge demand on Nick, and teams are gonna play on that. Teams are gonna try try and nullify his threat, knowing that if they're able to do that, then they stand a good chance of running out winners.
Well, someone who did find the back of the net, Joshua Barrett, that goal, we reacted very loudly and excitably when we saw that one go in. That was a beautiful strike, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, he's just a magnificent player, absolute technician. I love watching him play because he plays and always seems to have so much time on the ball. That's what good players do. You know, they know exactly where to touch the ball to keep it in a safe place, always look in control. And as we've seen with some of his finishes this season and in previous seasons, you know, he's a fantastic finisher, fantastic striker of the ball. And last night just epitomised that.
Yeah, it was definitely going to be goal of the week for Aaron McLean this week. We're not going to do a top three pick because there are only a few goals to pick from last night, but there was one on Saturday at least that deserves a mention. Adam May's goal for Forest Green Rovers. What a strike that was. That's going to be up there for goal of the season contender.
Yeah, unbelievable strike. When it comes to him on the edge of the box, he has one thing in his mind. I don't think even I would have thought about outside of the boot, smashing it into the far top corner, but the execution is unbelievable.
Moving on to the final game that took place on Multi-Match Live, Woking. It was a point, but it didn't really help either side. Rochdale, who would have liked to have got all three just to cement their place in the playoffs, but I suppose they'll take the point, Woking, and move forward with it.
Yeah, they'll take it. They would have liked the three because the three would have meant they would have moved above Halifax. And then it would have given them the opportunity with their game in hand that if they won that, they would have then gone above Oldham. So, it is a missed opportunity. And when you're in and around the playoffs, wanting to try and get promoted, you have to look at the teams near the bottom of the division and think, right, we need to beat those teams. You know, they're the games that you have to go and win. On a Woking perspective, they'll take the point. You know, it's just edges them away. The likes of Fylde, the likes of Boston have lost. So it just nudges them a little bit closer towards that safety number. You know, I'm sure everyone would have looked and said, if we get to 50 points, then that should keep us safe. So that's another point towards that total.
Rochdale goal was pretty tasty as well, wasn't it? Devontae Rodney with the strike. We debated it on Multi-Match Live, but another cool, calm finish.
Yeah, well, it was the link-up play. You know, the centre-half sees the run, delivers the perfect ball in the perfect area. And Rodney, his first touch was brilliant. And then the composure to just dispatch it. Again, for Rochdale, from there, they need to be kicking on. You know, at the moment, they're very stop-start. They're not winning games consistently. And I think that as you get towards the playoffs, you need to be banging for them because then it's those one-off games, it's those fine margins that define whether or not you end up a Football League team or whether you're back here with us again next season.
Right, here on National League 72, we like to get the opinions of you, the fans, and Josh, the producer, has been searching online and picked out some absolutely brilliant tweets from social media. Wealdstone fan Jeremy Albert here says, amazing performance tonight, 11 Warriors against all the odds. Dave Reader echoes that, immense from all our lads out there, UTS, brackets, up the Stones. And on the contrary to that, a Boston fan actually atted Wealdstone and went, fair play to the Stones, took your only chance. Dion Woodman was on the end of everything tonight and you stopped us playing. See you at the JCS. That return game is going to be really interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be brilliant. Because listen, both teams are fighting for survival. You know, make no mistake about it. Boston are desperate to stay in the Football League. You know, they don't want to fall out of it at the first time of asking. And I think it's since something like 2018, since all four promoted teams stayed in the National League. So they're desperate to not be the one team that, you know, lets the side down, so to speak. And for Wealdstone, you know, Wealdstone are always in and around that group and fighting for survival. Being part-time, obviously, I think plays a part in that. But you've got to say, last night's result will give them so much confidence that they can go and put another batch of results together to ensure that they consolidate in the National League.
AFC Fylde are desperate to get some results and put them together. And this is what Jack Connor says online. If we had the quality to bury some of the chances we created, we wouldn't be in this position. The effort, the application and togetherness is there, but sadly, no cutting edge. And I think ultimately that has cost us big time, which echoes what we were saying earlier on and what Luke was saying as well. Now, this is a great one. Aldershot fan, professional golfer, Justin Rose. Yep, that's right. Justin Rose has said, what a game this will be, a local derby, official shots versus Woking for a chance to play at Wembley Stadium. We spoke about this on Multi-Match Live. It is a huge game. Two National League clubs going head-to-head in the semi-final of the FA Trophy, and it's a local derby, which makes it even sweeter.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. You know, not only for the opportunity to go to Wembley and lift a piece of silverware, but because they are such bitter rivals and they have the opportunity to take that opportunity away from their rivals. That's why this game in the semi-final is so big. You know, I've heard from both sets of fans, and when I was doing the draw for the FA Trophy, they both wanted to play against each other. You know, as crazy as it is, you'd probably look at this and think this should be the final, but they both wanted to meet each other in the semi-final because they don't want the other set of fans to experience Wembley. So, you know, that just goes to show the bitter rivalry between the two.
That isn't the only big game taking place at the weekend. When we come back from this short break, we look ahead to the huge games taking place in the National League.
"47 years of promoting boxing. What a ride it's been." I was 23 years old at the time. I got an invite from the Boxing Board of Control to take a licence out. Back then, it was all run by the cartel.
We have a new promoter in British Championship Boxing, Frank Warren.
People liked it, I think, the fact that someone was taking the cartel on. I've never been afraid about shaking things up and working with new media.
This is a bit of a dream come true.
Pay-per-view, satellite TV.
Very proud of Amir. What he done was fantastic.
Bringing shows in from America Live. I've been lucky enough to promote some of the biggest names in boxing.
I'd like to thank Mr. Frank Warren for having me over here.
Just when you think it can't get any bigger, my mobile rang. We get this call from His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh. Off we went to the races. I'm as competitive as my fighters, and I fight for my fighters. I'm always looking for the next challenge, and I know there's one there now.
Queensbury arrives at the home of boxing, DAZN, multi-year deal, let's go.
This is a company that is devoted to boxing. They have a worldwide platform. And for us, that is very, very important to do what Queensbury is doing, to be expanding and building, working together for the betterment of boxing, as I believe it will be.
Greatness comes to DAZN this summer. The world's best players will be summoned together to decide the greatest club on earth.
Vinicius, great chance to score.
Goats will battle Wonder Kids. Fire will meet ice. From Boca to Bayern, PSG to Palmeiras, 32 clubs from across the globe will compete to be crowned
Rodrigo, what a strike that was.
world champion. And this summer, Haaland won't be watching from home, but you can on DAZN. In every country in the world. FIFA Club World Cup. Watch on DAZN from the 14th of June.
This weekend, we bring you a National League double-header as second place York travel to AFC Fylde. It's a 12:30 kickoff for that one. And later that day, we head to Eastleigh as they face FC Halifax Town live on DAZN from 5:15. And the games just keep on coming. Next Tuesday, we bring you more live National League action as Oldham take on Woking and Sutton face playoff hopefuls Rochdale. Both games kicking off at 7:45 live on DAZN. Also catch all the goals and action from this week's round of the National League with our highlight show, exclusively live on DAZN every Sunday from 4 p.m. and now available on our YouTube channel. Head to youtube.com/@DAZN Sports. As the playoffs and relegation reach their conclusion, DAZN will be bringing you a very special multi-match live. It's on Easter Monday, April 21st. And if you haven't seen the show, here's a quick taster. Good evening and welcome to Multi-Match Live.
Here on DAZN, we bring you all the goals, action and drama from tonight's National League games.
You can't beat the National League on DAZN. Wilbrig is frozen.
You know I can't play bad for you, Maka.
Who said be a manager? It's not good.
Oh, it's a wonderful goal.
It's live football. There's nothing better than watching.
We're rolling, baby. I'm running out of superlatives to describe how incredible this Barnet team is.
Dorking Wanderers gaffer Mark White.
The 6 teams still playing for automatic promotion.
The Braintree game, you get some serious rocking.
That is absolutely incredible.
Nick Horton delivers again.
Pierce takes the shot. Ollie Payne has done it.
Join us for Multi-Match Live on Monday the 21st of April on the home of the National League, DAZN.
There's a huge double header taking place this weekend, live and exclusive on DAZN, the home of the National League. York make the trip to AFC Fylde. How do you see this one going? Is it going to be straightforward 3 points for the visitors?
Well, I've got to say no. Listen, Fylde are fighting for their life. You know, they're in the bottom 4 at the moment. They know they desperately need a result. And what they have done this season is they've beaten Forest Green, they've beaten Altrincham when the Altrincham were flying, they've beaten Hartlepool. So they know that for the big games, they can turn up and they can go and get maximum points. They're up against a York team that, you know, listen, I think that they've been open about thinking that the title's over and now they are playing for those second and third spots. But they've won back-to-back games. You know, they're prolonging the agony for Barnet to lift the title, but they'll want to make sure that they now find their rhythm. They get back into the swing of things so that come the playoffs, they're banging form. So it's going to be a really, really tight game, but you would think that York should be able to come out on top.
The evening game is Eastleigh versus FC Halifax Town. We've spoken about Eastleigh's chances of reaching the playoffs, but that defeat to Tamworth has really dented those.
Yeah, I think that was the killer blow. You know, losing to Tamworth. I don't think they now can get in the playoffs. For Halifax, they're not in good form. You know, their away record has been very good, but their recent form isn't good at all. And they need the win if they want to stay in those playoff positions, because Gateshead have almost fallen off a cliff. But if they can regain a little bit of form, then they can move up. Southend are just on the peripheral. Tamworth are still asking questions as well. So there's a couple of clubs that are just outside of it that will be hoping to take a couple of those spots. And, you know, Halifax are in danger if they don't regain their form again of being one of the teams that could drop out.
You mentioned Tamworth there. Andy Peakes joined us on Multi-Match Live. He was absolutely brilliant. You can see that he's really enjoying his full-time role at the football club. A bit like Southend, can they nick that final playoff spot?
Well, they've got every chance. You know, the beauty of being at Tamworth right now is there's no expectation on them. You know, their assignment was stay in the National League. Well, they've done that comfortably. So now, this back end of the season, they can now just go out and play with a freedom, knowing that if they fall short in a game, it doesn't make a difference. They're still going to be a National League team next season. I think for Southend, it's the total opposite end. You know, the expectation on their shoulders is huge. Everyone on the outside is looking and saying, well, you've had to take over now. Now we're expecting you to get promoted. Things aren't always what they seem, and I still think that there's time needed and patience, but the expectation from the outside, that's not going to go away when you're Southend United.
Yeah, Tamworth travelled to Maidenhead and Southend travelled to Sutton United. You watched Southend versus Oldham in front of an incredible crowd. The atmosphere there was absolutely electric. I think it was over 8,500 in there. What was it that impressed you about that performance?
Well, first of all, they have different threats. You know, I think Gus Scott Morris has obviously been the standout player for them this season, scoring 17 goals from right back position, which is unheard of. We saw a different side to him in that game. you know, and they found different ways to win. First half, they were very explosive, very on the front foot. Second half, they had to ride their luck. They had to defend really well, and they stood up to challenge of Oldham, you know, who are a very good outfit in themselves as well. So I think the confidence that they've got has had to be built and has had to grow gradually. But now you'd say they're in prime position to be able to strike for those playoffs. And if they do manage to get in those playoff spots, you wouldn't bet against them going all the way.
We touched upon Gateshead falling off a cliff. They're in a terrible run of form, lost their last 6. They take on Dagenham and Redbridge, where they won't have fond memories, having getting battered 7-1. I'm not expecting to see a similar result, but what kind of game do you think we will see? Because both teams desperately need those points.
Well, Dagenham will be looking at Gateshead and A, taking the confidence that they beat them 7-1 earlier in the season, and B, the confidence that Gateshead have lost 6 on the bounce. You know, it's very rare that you'll come up against a team that's in the playoff positions that are in such terrible form.
When you think about it, it's actually quite mad, isn't it?
It's crazy, but it shows
how good they were at the start.
Absolutely,
as well.
It shows how good their front end of the season was. But for both teams, it's a must-win game. Dagenham are right in that relegation shake-up now, and if they fail to beat Gateshead, could find themselves in that bottom 4 by the end of the weekend. For Gateshead, they could find themselves outside of that playoff places if they fail to win. So both teams have to go for it. And the beauty of it is they know exactly what they need to do. It's win at all costs. The last 6 games of the season is just about winning. Nothing else really matters.
Yeah, it's all going to go down to the wire in the National League. But as you would have seen online, the National League South and North are producing some incredible title races and relegation places as well. Let's quickly talk about the National League South. Worthing sitting top. They lost 2 on the bounce before getting a good result at the weekend. They take on Truro in 3rd spot. Luke mentioned it on Multi-Match Live. These teams are playing each other and anyone can beat anyone.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of the National League South and the North, is that on any given day, a team can go and win that game. You know, there's so many teams vying for that top spot. And I honestly think this is going to run until the final day, and you could end up with 4 or 5 different people leading, you know, almost with one foot in the National League at any given time. You know, I want to actually see it live and see the live table as it chops and changes.
It's a nightmare for the graphics op.
Oh, it's a nightmare for them, but it's unbelievable for us as viewers, because that league this season has been so exciting and there's so many good teams. You can make a case for at least 5 of those teams to finish top spot. And then you look at the playoffs, who's gonna, you know, it's jostling for places. It's can we get that home tie in the first leg, or can we make sure that we go straight into the semi-final? The format that the National League has for the playoffs is unbelievable. You know, I think that should be employed higher up, because it just keeps the excitement all the way through the season.
And in the National League North, it's sort of a mirror of what's going on in the National League South. Kidderminster Harriers are hitting form at the right time. They are away to Buxton. And when we had Phil Brown on Multi-Match Live, he was saying that how important it's going to be to get that momentum, and it's going to go down to the wire. They are in incredible form with just 5 to go.
Yeah, 5 games to go, 5 cup finals, you know, and they have as good a chance as anyone of going on and winning the title. But I'm sure Chester, I'm sure Scunthorpe, I'm sure, you know, there'll be a whole host of teams that will all be thinking exactly the same. And then once you go into the playoffs, it's whoever can win those one-off games. You know, they are 3 cup finals once you get to the playoffs, because if you don't perform on that day, you go out.
It's set up to be an exciting end to the season, but the football doesn't stop there. There is a new club tournament coming your way this summer, and you can watch every game exclusively live on DAZN.
Greatness comes to DAZN this summer. The world's best players will be summoned together to decide the greatest club on earth.
Vinicius, great chance to score.
Goats will battle Wonder Kids. Fire will meet ice. From Boca to Bayern, PSG to Palmeiras, 32 clubs from across the globe will compete to be crowned
What a strike that was!
world champion. And this summer, Haaland won't be watching from home, but you can, on DAZN. In every country in the world. FIFA Club World Cup. Watch on DAZN from the 14th of June.
This weekend, we bring you a National League double-header as second place York travel to AFC Fylde. It's a 12:30 kickoff for that one. And later that day, we head to Eastleigh as they face FC Halifax Town live on DAZN from 5:15. And the games just keep on coming. Next Tuesday, we bring you more live National League action as Oldham take on Woking and Sutton face playoff hopefuls Rochdale. Both games kicking off at 7:45 live on DAZN. Also catch all the goals and action from this week's round of the National League with our highlight show, exclusively live on DAZN every Sunday from 4 p.m. and now available on our YouTube channel. Head to youtube.com/@DAZN Sports. Our final word this week has to go to Western Supermare captain Luke Colson, who scored a hat-trick at the weekend against Hornchurch. But his third goal was super impressive. He scored it from his own penalty box. Someone that you know very well, Erin. What did you make of that strike?
Yeah, brilliant strike. Listen, I'm not surprised from Luke. Funny enough, a couple of years ago, Course was, let's say, not happy with some of the comments that I made, where he, instead of shooting, he opted to pass. And I said, a confident Luke Coulson takes that shot on, knowing him as well as I do. Well, he's definitely confident in taking on that strike, more or less in his own penalty area. Hits a shot. Yes, the goalkeeper's out of it, but to be able to execute a strike like that and for it to be a hat-trick goal was brilliant. So Luke, well done. And it would have been an extra sweet touch for him as well because it was against Hornchurch, who Daryl McMahon, our former manager, is manager there. So yeah, well done, Luke.
You got the approval of Erin McLean there. We absolutely love those sort of clips here on National League 72. So if you do see any, do get on the hashtag National League on DAZN and we will pick them out and talk you through them. Right, that's it for this week. Thanks for watching and we'll see you next time. Good evening and welcome to Multi-Match Live.
Here on DAZN, we bring you all the goals, action and drama from tonight's National League games.
You can't beat the National League on DAZN. Whealdstone is frozen.
You know I can't play bad for you, Marco.
Who said be a manager? It's not good.
Oh, it's a wonderful goal.
It's live football. There's nothing better than watching.
We're rolling, baby! I'm running out of superlatives to describe how incredible this Barnet team is.
Dorking Wanderers gaffer Mark White.
There's 6 teams still playing for automatic promotion.
The Braintree game, you get some serious rocking.
That is absolutely incredible.
Nick Horton delivers again.
Pierce takes the shot. Has done it.
Join us for Multi-Match Live on Monday the 21st of April on the home of the National League, DAZN.